Hi, folks. Folks, you're with Tacitus today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a political ideology or political indoctrination teachers in the Soviet Union. One of the things that you'll note in every ideological sort of despotism like a communist government, any government that's being imposed on the people without the people's consent, which an ideological government, which communism certainly is, they need or believe they need a lot of indoctrination teachers, not teachers to simply teach mathematics or whatever, but to teach ideological indoctrination, political indoctrination. And these teachers are perceived to be the most important teachers of the education system. So if you get the job as or this is in the former Soviet Union, of course, which has collapsed, but if you get the job in any communist society as an ideological sort of teacher pushing ideology, Marxist ideology in this case, then if you're chosen for that job, then that's in itself you can be the recipient of many benefits for that. And then if you're perceived as a good ideological sort of propagating the ideology successfully or doing it to the satisfaction of the heavyweights in the controlling government, then you can get many benefits, far more benefits than just a normal citizen can get. So you'll get a better house or a better apartment. It'll be closer to the transport links. It'll be closer to the store. You'll have access to Western products, which every Soviet citizen coveted, and you'll have access to airline pilots and staff who will buy Western products for you, and the list goes on of benefits that you have that other people don't have. Access to Western movies and so on and so forth. So this guy was a fairly youngish. I doubt he'd have been, well, considering his age today, he must have been under 30 at the time. But he was one of these ideological teachers in the Soviet Union. Now, remember, communism is an imposed government. It's not socialism. Communism is an imposed government. It wasn't voted for by the people. The people didn't choose it. There was nothing organic or natural about it. It was imposed on the people through the barrel of a gun. And if you didn't agree, they would kill you. So they perceive that we've got the best way of governing any society or running any society ever. And if you disagree with that, then we'll give you an option to repent and beg forgiveness for your sins. And if that doesn't work, we'll kill you. So it's hardly something that the people are choosing and are happy about. It's being imposed at the barrel of a gun. It's the best system ever. And if you disagree, then you've got the problem and we'll kill you. So this is not that every single person was killed, but if you look in the case of the Soviet Union or indeed communist China or Pol Pot's Cambodia, the death rate was astonishing. We're not just talking the odd one or two. We're talking tens of millions of people in the Soviet Union and China, and I think the population of Cambodia, Pol Pot, I think it was something like 8 million, and 1.5 million plus people were killed just to cleanse the society of those that may not be fully on board with the Marxist ideology. So because of this, then indoctrination and propaganda and more lies and more propaganda are necessary to try and keep the system afloat. Terror is one side of it, but the other side is trying to convince as many people as possible that any other alternative is worse. So we've got the best system because every other alternative is Nazis, it's fascists, anything else. It's decadent Western capitalism that exploits the people and so this is the propaganda side. So on one side you got terror, because remember the people haven't asked for this, they want it, they didn't vote for it. So the only way you can keep it in place is terror on one side and ideological fanatical indoctrination on the other. Increasingly in the West we're heading in this direction, in the same direction that the globalist project is ideological. It's not voted for by the people. Nobody wants it. Nobody would vote for it. And if you went to the people all across the Western world, said, do you want mass migration? It would, say in a referendum, for example, do you want mass migration? It would lose, and lose handily, in spite of all the propaganda and the money and the resources to be thrown at it. Do you want special allowances made for non-white people? That would lose. Do you want LGBTQ stuff taught in schools? That would lose. Do you want to pay 3 or 4 times the price for energy because of these green fantasies? That would lose. So really, every single plank of the globalist project, if it was put to the vote to what the people want, it would lose. So we need to understand that the globalist project is being imposed. And on one side, it's the terror state, the police state is certainly ramping up, and then the indoctrination state. And we look at the college kids, for fuck's sake. The indoctrination state is also the lies, the propaganda, the indoctrination state. The media is controlled. All the cultural institutions are controlled by the globalists, and indeed the colleges. If you disagree with mass migration, you're Hitler. And this sort of ridiculous indoctrination and lies and propaganda. Now, this political ideology teacher his job was to convince mainly senior high school students. I think at the age of 15, they were sort of mandatory to attend these classes. So senior high school students, they had to attend these classes, and his job was to convince them that not only was the communist system, Marxist system, the best ever, it was the only way to go. And every other country was every other place where Marxism wasn't practiced was an evil place. It was fascist, it was Nazi, it was decadent, it was this, that, the next thing. To say, well, look at, and they'd show pictures of, say, drunk, they go into like the black ghettos or something in the United States and look at pictures of black people lying on the street, say drunk or been taking drugs or something like that, and say, look, well, that's how the Americans live. All Americans live like that. See, so this would be part of the overall propaganda indoctrination campaign. Now, so I was talking to the guy and said, well, gee, how wow, you must have believed this. The propaganda must have been successful. You must have thoroughly and completely believed this. The propaganda must have worked on you. And he said, no. And I was really surprised. He said, no, I didn't believe it for a minute. None of us believed it. There were a couple of diehards, he thought, in these indoctrination teachers, but he said none of us believed it, or very few of us did. We knew that it was all lies. We knew it was all propaganda. The propaganda and the lies were just so bad and lacking consistency and continuity. You could easily spot the lies. But he said the idea was that as indoctrination teachers, we ignored reality, we ignored facts, and we just pushed ahead with the indoctrination. And they had immense powers, these political indoctrination teachers. If one of the students at in the classes looked like they were asking just a couple too many questions, or maybe possibly they've got bourgeois thoughts, anything like that, they can just call their secret police commissar and who's like in the school, and just say, look, Billy Bob or I don't know, Ivan or something out down the back there, he's a couple of bourgeois utterances, and bang, they'd be onto it, and Ivan would be whisked away for some further indoctrination, and it's pretty heavy, because they'd say, the secret police goons would say, look, you've got a choice here. You can toe the line, or we're going to go after your parents, and we're going after your brothers and your sisters, and your grandmother who's in the nursing home. We're going to go after her, and she's going to suddenly find that she's on the street with no one to take care of her. Think about this, Ivan. Exactly how do you want to respond? Yes, so they could come after you and hit you from various directions, and Ivan would very quickly realize that he should be jumping up and saying, I love Comrade Stalin, or something like that. And if he does that enough and loudly enough and so on, then he'll be he'll be let off. So, but he didn't. This teacher, the guy who was teaching the indoctrination, didn't believe it for a moment, and pointed out some of the absurdities. Now, I don't know whether he's taking that position now, but at the time he was a fervent communist. But given it's all fallen to pieces, he's changed his tune. I don't think so. He's not that bright a guy himself, actually. I wonder if they picked the indoctrination teachers who had to be sort of fanatical communists or perceived it. But this teacher guy, from the Soviet Union, he said that the trick was to convince the political commissars that you were a fervent communist, that you were absolutely on board with the Marxist program, and that no other possible thought would enter your head. And he said, well, why? I was asking, well, why would you do that if you didn't? He said, because the benefits. He said, if you're teaching indoctrination, Marxist indoctrination, it's one of the better jobs in the whole country. You get paid more than doctors do. You get paid more than engineers do. You get paid. It's one of the best. Well, not so much pay necessarily, the benefits rather than the pay. So again, and he came out with a list of benefits. Like if he was just an ordinary teacher, teaching, I don't know, mathematics or something, he'd have an apartment where he would have to, it would be on the 4th floor. He's got to walk up and down all the time. He's going to have to share a bathroom with 3 other families. They got to share a kitchen with 4 or 6 other families. They've it's a small apartment where they've only got a government shop with a ration card that they can go to shop at. A lot of days in the week they're not going to be able to get bread because they've run out, and these sorts of things. You live that's the lifestyle. But as a political indoctrination teacher, this is like working for, say, an NGO in the West today, being a senior player in the NGO, pumping out propaganda or helping illegal aliens, illegally enter the West or something like that. These are well-paid jobs, 3, 4, 5 times the average wage. Whereas in the Soviet Union, he said that the pay wasn't much better, but instead of having a compact apartment or a house, they've got he can get a house if he's this job. He's got quite a spacious house. They've got a private kitchen, private bathroom. They're in the 1st or the 2nd floor, or they're in a building that's got an elevator that's always well serviced and is always in operation. And the list just goes on of the benefits that they have. He pointed out the shops he could go to, and or had all the Western good, just better quality food, more of it, more variety. The shops that he had access to were never without bread. They always had freshly baked bread there, and so on and so forth. So the benefits were enormous, and his wife was obviously very appreciative of that, as were his children had access to better schools. They were guaranteed a university education at the better universities, and he got a better car. If he wanted to buy anything, that the others had to go in long waiting lists and queues, he didn't have to. So there was just an endless amount of benefits. So he said, if you can convince the political commissars that you're really an absolute fanatical Marxist, then you get a lot of benefits. And this was, he claimed he was just expert at conning them. I don't know. I just didn't detect he was that bright, but maybe he was. Maybe he's so clever that he comes across as dumb. Maybe that's I don't know. But so he was saying the other teachers were the same. No one actually believed it, or other than the odd one or two, that they didn't really believe it. So all the people that were teaching the indoctrination themselves didn't believe it. They were just good at pretending they believed it. Now, when the Soviet Union fell over, or when it came to the crunch, when the sort of the terror side of the system lost its way and didn't know what to do and floundered, that was when the Soviet Union fell to pieces. That not so much the propaganda, because when the terror system fell over, then a lot of the people who were purveying the propaganda were themselves only doing it because they were being terrorized into it. So suddenly the propaganda fell away, and the terror, it stalled, I think, more than anything, and that's it. The whole state fell over. So it shows how much it completely relied on propaganda and terror to stay in place. We see the same today with the globalist project in the West. The police state is, in fact, the growing terror state that the Soviets and the Marxists had in the communist societies, and it's really moving ahead at a pace here. Just an example on this threat to the globalist system, the Hamas and the Palestinian demonstrations and riots and so on. Now, given Hamas is a listed terrorist organisation, it's illegal to protest or to run around or to wave flags or do it's illegal. So the police could easily arrest all these people if they wanted to. The laws are on the books now to do it, in Britain and elsewhere, and to extent here. They also didn't get permission to do their marches and their rallies. This was the Palestinians and Hamas. They didn't get permission to do it. Again, the police could have arrested them or dispersed them with tear gas or something like that. They're coming out with some very anti-Semitic utterances that are also illegal under various laws that seem to only be applied to straight white people. But the police stand by, all across the Western world, stand by and do nothing. Just let all this law breaking take place, and the police do nothing. They don't even enforce the existing laws or make any attempt to. That's because Hamas and the Palestinian activists are not a threat to the globalization project. In fact, they're very much part of it. They are exactly part of the globalization project. They're creating social division, racial division. They're causing loss of confidence and faith and trust in the society. All these things the globalists want. But if you're straight white males getting together and complaining about mass migration, then that is a threat. That is a threat to the globalist project, and the police are then instructed to, and the security services, white supremacy, Hitler, Nazis. Then they're told to come down really hard on these people and drag those motherfuckers into court and make sure an activist judge hears the case. So the terror side of things is very much in play in the Western world today, and we need to come to grips with that. It just so happens that the Hamas and all that stuff is not a threat to in the West, is not a threat to the globalist project, or certainly not seen as one. And so the police are instructed, nothing to worry about, don't care. But white people getting together and organising, now that is a threat. You fucking arrest those Hitler motherfuckers, and that's where we're at now. Now the same goes on for the Soviet Union. If people are getting murdered or beaten up or this or that, who cares? That's not a threat to the ideology. But people having bourgeois thoughts or questioning the Marxist ideology of the ruling goon squad, then that is a threat, and they'll jump on it and treat it with much brutality. And this is the thing we're seeing playing out in the West today. But what was interesting is the Soviet Union fell to pieces almost straight away. No one actually believed it. Once the people were given a choice, they didn't want it and didn't like it and would complain about all the lies that were told, the untruths, the terror, the state of terror, the arbitrary arrests, the murders, but the state-sanctioned murder of people who just had the wrong opinion and or the wrong view or thought to have the wrong view. Suspension of the rule of law, due legal process was completely arbitrary. You had the wrong ideas, you could be killed, but you murdered somebody, who cares? We're seeing this, of course, playing out in the West today. But you will see it wherever you impose ideological government on the people. You'll see the same thing happening, as indeed we're seeing in the West now. You've been a task us today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.